let's set the scene for Kamaru Usman, Colby Covington. Kamaru wins the title. Colby is on an absolute fucking barn burner of a run, creates this persona. Kamaru isn't known for his finishes. The first fight was absolutely fantastic. Yeah. Neither guy wanted to wrestle. Both guys showed off their striking ability. For me, the tale of the first fight was physicality and power. Kamaru had a little bit more power in his punches, managed to really damage Colby in the latter rounds, finished him in the fifth. Cool. Colby goes away, changes team, moves away from American Top Team. Kamaru Usman does the same thing. He goes to Trevor Whitman. Colby Covington. Who's Colby Covington training with again?
I'm not quite sure. He's kind of been floating around it. Yeah, I think so.
Someone must like him.
Have to confirm that.
Jesus. I mean, just to slightly go over this, right? Because I think it is MMA Masters, isn't it? It is MMA Masters.
It is.
Me pulling that out of my fucking brain. Colby Covington, for all intents and purposes, supposedly, as a man outside of fighting, is a lovely guy, just a regular guy. He just understood that he had a shtick and plays it up. Whether he actually truly believes any of the things that he says is up for debate, right? But as we've already spoken about, I don't care about that stuff, really. What I care about is fighter A versus fighter B, skill set versus skill set. And this is phenomenal. Like, there's a lot of fighters that I love to watch fight that I may not like in person. Do you know what I mean? And vice versa. There are some people that I think are stinkers of fighters, but I'm sure they're beautiful people, right? So
most good people I know are terrible fighters, but
right. Yeah.
Most people I know are terrible fighters, so you know.
Sure. So I think with Colby Covington, as Ian alluded to at the start, as long as people tune in to watch you fight, who gives a fuck? You're getting paid, yeah? And that's all that matters, right? This is prize fighting at the end of the day. So I will open the floor here to whether anyone has any initial thoughts about how the fight will look second time around. Who wants to go first?
Well, I'd say I just wanted to do a slight bit more recap. I still don't understand why Colby Covington has managed to get this shot. He fought once last year against the ghost of Tyron Woodley, who admittedly he beat very clearly.
Handily, yeah.
But also, yeah, because...
Well, let me help you with that. The OG of Irish MMA media, Mr. Graham McDonnell, said something extremely insightful in a recent live stream that we were doing for Severe MMA, right? And what he said was, people forget that the UFC is not a fucking league, yeah? It's prize fighting. It's not about, oh, well, I'm number 7, so I'm going to fight number 6. And, oh, I'm number 5, so I can fight number 4, or I can fight number 6. No, it's not that, yeah? It's who gets bums on seats, who gets eyes on screens, right? Colby Covington does that. So it doesn't matter. This isn't a meritocracy. This isn't, unfortunately, right? I do think in some ways it is, right? If you beat a couple of guys at the lower ranks, you're going to get pushed up. If you beat enough guys, you'll get top 15. But as soon as you hit the top 15, meritocracy just goes out the window, right? If meritocracy was a thing, Beneil Dariush would have had a title shot. Leon Edwards would have had a title shot, right? But that doesn't happen. It doesn't happen, right? So that's the answer to your question. Colby Covington is insanely controversial. People love to hate him. People hate to love him. He gets a title shot, right?
And the first fight between these two guys was a fantastic fight and a relatively close fight as well. You know, there was a few people who had Colby Covington up at the time, or at least had the fight at 2-2 heading into the last round. So, I mean, Dana White came out and said at the a recent press conference that Colby Covington versus Kamaru Usman was one of his favorite fights to watch of all time. And I think he had a kind of an egg in his ass to make this rematch as well. Colby Covington has come out and spoken about Kamaru Usman not wanting this fight, that the UFC has gone and made it happen, that wasn't from Usman's side. I don't know whether you want to believe that or not, but I definitely do think that Dana White, UFC, was pushing this fight. Yes, you have to agree that Leon Edwards may feel a little bit hard done by not to being given the shot. But like Harry said, we're not talking about leagues here. We're talking about entertainment fights, guys who are going to sell fights and guys who are going to put bums in seats and guys that are going to sell pay-per-views. We're on about needle movers. And that seems to be the trend always with the UFC. And we're going to see it again down the line. And sometimes it can be frustrating, but I'm happy this fight is happening for one. I think it's going to be a fantastic fight. And I'm curious to see what change-ups and what differences that Colby Covington brings in here. Will he try to utilize his wrestling more? Will he try and stand and bang with him? I spoke about this earlier on this week where I was thinking that now, speaking about Colby Covington speaking out publicly, now you can always take everything that he says with a pinch of salt. But he himself reckoned that he was winning that first fight. So if he has that mentality that he was really winning that fight, if he really truly believes that he won that fight, then I can't see him coming up here and changing up all that much. And if that's the case, I think he's going to create his own downfall, because I think that Kamaru Usman has improved extensively as a fighter. And I think that his work in the striking department has improved exponentially since that first fight. I believe that he puts himself in a much better positions to land his power shots now, does Kamaru Usman. And it'll be very difficult for Colby Covington to fight a fire versus fire fight. A firefight with Kamaru Usman is not the way to go here.
That's the question, isn't it? Because we've seen Kamaru Usman fight a fair few, I don't even know how many times. I think he's fought a few times since, hasn't he? 3 times. We've seen Colby Covington once and against, again, Tyron Woodley. Not much can be told from that fight. And Kamaru Usman's obviously improved considerably striking. That said, if Colby Covington's strategy the whole time was to come back to face Kamaru Usman, you know how they say the champion everyone's got their eyes on them, everyone's planning how to beat him. Colby might have had pretty much the entire year to work on whatever skills he thinks are specific to beating Kamaru.
I don't think this fight's going to be close at all. Hot take. I think Kamaru gets it done quicker this time than he did last time.
Yeah,
I would tend to have to agree with that point as well, Harry. I mean, if you're Kamaru Usman here, you're definitely going to be wanting to come into this fight and better that first performance to really put a stamp on that win. And you're going to want for no questions after the fight. And the only way you can do that is going in there and getting your opponent out of there.
So my thoughts on this fight are, we've watched Kamaru Usman bolt together a skill set over the last 6 years that he's been in the UFC, from being purely a wrestler with zero striking to then bolting on striking to setting up his grappling, to now being an all-round proficient MMA fighter, right? He stood and banged with Jorge Masvidal the second time, and look what happened. His footwork, for me, has probably been the biggest improvement. His ability to cut the cage off, set feints with his feet, be elusive on the feet, and then land his power shots is unbelievable. Because if you're a fighter, you know Kamaru Usman's wheelhouse is the grappling, right? You know that. So almost always fighters are going to fight with their hands just a little lower, just a touch lower, so they can get underhooks if he shoots. They need to make frames if he's going to drive them to the cage, etc., etc. So what does that do? Well, that allows Kamaru Usman's hands to flow a little bit easier, his kicks to flow a little bit easier. And the footwork that he uses is often faking shots, level changes, ducking left and right, moving his head to fake grappling exchanges to land his shots. Do I think that Colby is going to wrestle in this fight? I don't know. It'd be very interesting if he does, because if he does get Kamaru to his back, that's a question we haven't really seen answered. So that will be very interesting. However, the reason he didn't try to take Kamaru down last time was why?
He was he had a good bit of success on the feet, and he thought he was winning the fight, I think. So, and why he didn't grapple him the last time, maybe he just doesn't fancy his chances against someone as powerful as Kamaru Usman, who is really, really strong in the clinch as well.
So my answer is energy expenditure, right? When you get in that cage, especially over 25 minutes, everyone only has a certain gas tank. Colby Covington might have the best gas tank we've ever seen in MMA, right? However, even he was like, fuck this noise. Like, getting him to the mat might cost me so much energy and I may not be able to keep him there. Risk versus reward doesn't make sense. Has Colby gotten so much better in the grappling realms over the last year? I can't see it. He's already a fantastic grappler. What's he going to have added to his game that's going to cause Kamaru Usman more problems?
Yeah.
It's a fair shout. That kind of level, it's hard to... It's incrementally small gains, I guess. There's not much you can...
Insanely small gains, right?
And I'm of the same opinion here as looking in at, like, if you're trying to game plan as for Colby Covington's team, is like, yeah, you want to try and keep Kamaru Usman guessing and stuff like that. But like, if you initiate the grappling, you're more than likely going to lose against Kamaru Usman because he's just so strong in the clinch. Like, and he just has an ability to control the fight, and he forces guys to fight his fight time and time again. Yeah. And just to maybe piggyback off what you said about Kamaru Usman's footwork is spot on as well. I think that work with Trevor Whitman has really paid dividends with him. Whereas that he had that power and he carried that power, but he didn't know how to use it. And it seems that he is developing the skills right now, and we've seen the fruits of that labor in these previous fights as well, where he has knocked out Masvidal, where he has knocked out Gilbert Burns as well. So, I mean, that's not going to be too good for Colby Covington in this fight either as well. And I think that eventually he is going to accumulate a certain level of damage, and more than likely, I'm the same as you guys. I just can't see any improvement or any way that he can get this job done from what I've seen from the first fight or what I've seen since or after him.
So my only thoughts, right? In the first fight, what I did see was Colby was quicker. Not by a lot, but he was quicker. Now, that's probably because on fight night, he's the lighter man, right? He's carrying less muscle mass. If he can put together a stick and move game plan, whereas Kamaru, right, in the first fight, takes the center of the cage and wants to stay there. If you can make Kamaru follow you, don't get me wrong, it's risky. You're testing Kamaru's footwork. But if you can make him follow you and catch him as he's coming in, stick and move, maybe you can win a couple of rounds and try and change the dynamic. However, that would mean Colby learning an entirely new skill set. One, fighting backwards. Two, striking, fighting backwards, right? Very, very difficult. Now, a year's a long time, and Colby's a fantastic fighter. So can he do it? Of course he can. Do I think he will? Absolutely not. I feel as though this is Kamaru's fight to lose. Does anyone else have anything to add?
Not too much. I mean, if we were going to start on predictions, my prediction would be in this fight would be Colby Covington is probably going to come in and fight a similar enough fight to what he fought in this first fight with Kamaru Usman, and that's not going to bode too well. I think that Kamaru Usman is going to come in here with a little bit of chip on his shoulder of wanting to shut Colby up finally. He's going to want to better that first result, and I would expect him to get the knockout in round 3 or round 4 in this fight.
God, that's so frustrating. My answer was round 3 finish for Kamaru Usman. Robbie?
It's brown bread. Round 3 finish.
All right. Yeah. Wicked. The one thing I will say, if I'm Colby Covington, he didn't do it in the first fight, but Kamaru Usman is known for having terrible knees.
Just leg kick the shit out of him.
The shit out of him.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a very, very good point. Very good point.
Colby is a volume hitter. Not a big hitter, but a volume hitter. If he's willing to land a couple, take one, but as Kamaru is throwing that right hand, land a fucking disgusting low kick and keep doing that, that will add up. But yeah.
Not to get back onto that fight, but if he is concerned about the grappling, if he doesn't want to give it a try, throwing leg kicks against someone you're concerned is going to wrestle you is a bold move.
It is a bold move, but what else are you going to do?
Yep, fine. He's got to change. Well, he should change something, but yeah, you might be right here, and he might think he was winning with his old strategy and just stick with it.
So we'll move on to